My name's Paula, and I'm just going to talk to you today about how God has been good in my life, how He's restored my marriage on 2 occasions. And one of the scriptures that I think is really relevant to me and my story is 2 Corinthians 13:9. For we are glad when we are weak and you are strong. Your restoration is what we pray for. And I've prayed for restoration a lot over the number of years, and I believe God has been so faithful in restoring my marriage. And I just go back and just tell you a little bit about my testimony. So starting off, I grew up in a very happy family, well, actually mostly happy, and we were known as C of E, I think quite common label in those days. We didn't go to church, but we believed in God, that there was God, and I'd been christened, and I think I went to Sunday school a few times when I was little, but we didn't have an active faith. I met Mark when I was at school. I was 11, he was 12, and we met in the dinner queue at school and went out on a little date to the cinema. It was all very sweet. I thought he was lovely even then, and he says he thought I was lovely even then, but obviously very young, and it didn't last. He moved schools, which obviously put pay to that, and we met again when I was 15 at a school disco, and we started going out again. We were going out for about a year. During that time, Mark joined the Royal Marines, and we had a long distance relationship, writing to each other lots and speaking to each other on the phone as often as we could. However, that was really challenging for Mark because the type of life he was living with the boys, as it were, in a very sort of close family, they were all living quite a wild life, and having a steady girlfriend didn't really fit in with that. So we came to an end. It finished, and we had another sort of 10 months apart. I left school and got a job, and Mark was in the Marines, and we met again, or we had contact again, when Mark went to the Falklands, and he realised that his feelings for me, and he didn't want to waste another minute because he'd seen lots of awful things in the Falklands War and really wanted to make sure he made the right choices to enjoy his life without wasting any time. So he got in touch with me and told me his feelings for me, and when he came back from the Falklands we started going out again, and it wasn't long before we realised that we really wanted to spend our life together. So at 18 we got engaged, and 20 we bought our first, we got married. We bought our first house at 18 and 19, but we got married at 20, and he was 21. We had a lovely, first year was quite difficult, as it often is with 2 quite domineering mothers, but we found our feet, and we had a good life. We enjoyed ourselves. We went on quite a few nice holidays, and we had our first daughter when I was 26, Brianna, and then we had another daughter, Victoria, or Tori, when I was 29. And we were very happy. Mark was always very active. He did triathlons, marathons, kayaking. He came out of the Marines just as we got married, because I knew really I couldn't be married to someone that was away all the time, and he didn't really want to be away if he was going to have children, because he's very family focused. So he came out of the Marines when we just got married. So he went to the fire brigade, and so that fitted nicely with his very active lifestyle. So he was extremely active, climbing in Scotland, and, as I say, triathlons and marathons. So always doing something, and always doing lots and lots of things. And we were very happy. The girls were gorgeous. We had a lovely home, but I was always aware that there felt like there was something missing. And I couldn't understand why it could feel that way, because I had a lovely husband who I adored, lovely children that I adored, a lovely home. There was nothing I wanted for, so I couldn't understand why it felt that way. But anyway, it did. It didn't seem to disturb me. It was just there at the back of my mind, but we got on with life, we were happy. When Victoria was about 18 months, Mark saw advertised a rowing race across the Atlantic, and he decided he would like to enter with his best mate Steve, and so this was 1995, and it took about, he entered it. He had to learn to row as well. He didn't know how to row at that time. He entered it with his friend, and it took 2 years to prepare, and things were really, really stressful at that time. They got really, really stressful. We had to raise sponsorship. He had to raise sponsorship. There was an awful lot of time consumed in learning to row and getting the boat built and getting the money together, and it just consumed all of his extra time, all of his time that he wasn't at work, and it just put a really, really big strain on us as a family, particularly our marriage. And so in 97, when it actually got to the start line, I was really at the point where I just wanted it all to be over, and get back to what my life was like before this rowing race, because it had just taken over and taken control. So Mark did the race, and we had a month booked in Barbados, which seems absolutely wonderful, because a month in Barbados, but the reason for that was that because we didn't know how long the race would take, the organisers suggested that we book, if we could, a large window, so that we wouldn't miss them coming in, because in those days it wasn't easy to change flights, where it cost a lot of money. So we booked a month in Barbados, which sounds wonderful, and we were looking forward to that, and looking forward to, as I say, for me, for it all being over. So when we got to Barbados, Mark got in pretty quickly after we got there. In fact, it was the very next day. So we had this month, wonderful month. But unfortunately, it wasn't really what I'd expected, because Mark was so absorbed with it still. He wanted to see every boat coming in. So every other day we made a bus journey to another part of the island to see people coming in. He wanted to socialise with them. He wanted to enjoy his experience and share his experience that they'd all shared. It was obviously an amazing one. But unfortunately, it didn't feel like that for me. It just felt like it wasn't stopping. It was carrying on. And then when we got home, it wasn't very long at all before Mark decided that he wanted to row his own race against the records, and have a crew and get his own boat. So we did have to talk about it, and I said that I didn't think that our marriage could survive another one. I was really concerned that we wouldn't manage to make it through, because of the strain that it had put on our marriage at the beginning. And he was very aware of that, and really was so adamant that he wouldn't let that happen again, and that he would make sure that he made enough time for the family, and it wouldn't encroach on our life and everything. So reluctantly I agreed, although I knew that whilst he wanted that to be the case, that things just could get out of hand as they had done the first time, and that with best will in the world he might not be able to do anything about it. So it happened that way. We got into the second row, and again it took over. I mean, one of the things was he was always such a lovely dad with the girls. He was always very full on with the girls, even though, if we went out for family time, there might be phone calls coming in, and that would take his attention away. But when he was with them, he was very full on, and it's probably I was the one that probably didn't get as much of his time because I didn't demand so much of his time, and so there was only so much he could give because he was so taken up with everything. So that's why I think I was felt left out in his attentions. But he tried his hardest. It just was one of those things that I don't think he could have done anything about it. It's just the way it was. So the third row, the second row, beg your pardon, the second row, he got over, I think, about halfway, and something went wrong with the rudder and they had to be recovered. So he got picked up, and the boat that picked them up, luckily for Mark, not so lucky for me, they picked up the boat as well. And so as soon as he got back, he wanted to plan another attempt, because obviously he hadn't achieved what he wanted to. And so that was 2002. So it started all over again. And again, I didn't feel, some people might say, you should have put your foot down, you should have said no, but you don't want to actually stop people doing what they're passionate about, but because it seems harsh, and that was the way he was. So I wanted him to realise that it wasn't really conducive to married life, but I didn't really feel I could say, no, I don't want you to do it. I don't know whether he would have done or not anyway, but that's maybe just the way I am. And so we went along with it. So the third row attempt was 2004, and that was the same year that at work, I was a school nurse at the time, and one of my team members that I used to meet up with during immunisation sessions, Fiona Wood, a lot of you would know Fiona, and she was talking to me about her newfound faith. She'd just been on an Alpha course, and she was so full of it and so excited, and was just talking about it, and I was asking her questions, and we had this really good chat, and she was saying, oh, why don't you come on an Alpha course? And so I said I'd consider it. I said, so let me know when there's one on. And she did, and so I got this note through saying there's an Alpha course on and would I like to attend. I happened to mention it to my daughters and Mark, and they were all really keen on me doing it. Don't quite know why, but they were really keen. The girls were keen. I think they were just really, really interested. 2 or 3 years before, actually, my closest friend that I'd been to school with had become a Christian, and said that she was praying for me. So she was praying for someone to come alongside me at work, which was God's sense of humour, really, because he did that. He got someone alongside me at work. And so 2004, I went on an Alpha course, and I thought, well, I'll give it a few goes. I'll go for the first few weeks and see. I won't commit to going for the whole 12. I'll just see how it goes. And I went along for the first few, and the people were lovely, and it was a really nice environment, really friendly, really, really nice evening. I did find it hard when they sang the worship songs, because they were singing about loving the Lord and all this, that and the other, and I didn't feel that, so I didn't feel I could sing the song, because it was words that I didn't mean at that time. But apart from that, I really, really enjoyed the evening, and I found myself after sort of 3 or 4 weeks really looking forward to the next one and the next one and the next one. Went on the Holy Spirit weekend, and although I really was thinking that, what have I got to lose by taking the plunge and saying I believe? What have I got to lose? I've got nothing to lose. I've only got to gain. Despite having those feelings and really being on the verge, I still there's still something holding me back. And one of the things that was part of it was that whilst things had been getting steadily worse in my marriage, I had actually been feeling like I needed to look somewhere else for a relationship that I wasn't getting with Mark. And so I was being tempted to turn away from my marriage and turn to someone else. And so that was perhaps just a few months before the Alpha course, and I didn't feel I had the strength to turn away from this temptation, and I didn't really feel I had the desire at that time, because I was looking to get something that I wasn't getting in my marriage. So that was something that was quite appealing, although I knew it was destructive, because I knew that it would wreck lives. So on the one hand I was tempted, on the other hand I knew it would be disastrous. So the Alpha course came at a perfect time, and so I got to the point where I thought, I'm going to do this. I am actually going to do this. I'm going to put a stop to this temptation. I'm going to give my life to God, and ask Him to help me. And I did, and He was so faithful. He sort of switched off all those other feelings, completely switched them off, completely gave me focus on Him, the Lord, and gave me a hope, a desire and a hope that my marriage could be saved and could be good. And I just can't tell you how amazing that was. When you think you can't do something, God can just step in just like that and completely change the situation. So that was amazing. Another amazing thing was that even though Mark all along had been keen for me to go to church and was quite happy for me to go to church and the girls, he'd said that it wasn't for him. He had too much going on in his life. He was too absorbed with all these other things. But what happened was, as he was leading up to this third row, which was within sort of the year of me doing the Alpha course, as I say, all this preparation. Then he did the row, jumping forward for a lot of stress, but jumping forward through that stress. He got within 100 miles of the UK, and a hurricane hit the boat, and broke it in half. And so he was thrown into the sea. I got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, one morning, to say he was in the water, and they were sending a rescue boat, they were trying to attempt to rescue. I got my Bible, so obviously it was awesome that I was saved at that point, and got hold of my Bible and just prayed, and thankfully he was rescued. The whole crew was rescued, nobody was hurt. And when we picked him up at Southampton Airport and were bringing him home in the car, he announced to me and the girls that he was going to do an Alpha course, which we were absolutely amazed, because I thought, even having been rescued, I thought he wouldn't entertain the thought. So that was amazing. We gave this big woohoo in the car, which was awesome, because the girls had actually got saved as well shortly after me, and we'd all been baptised that year, so they were thrilled. And Mark did the Alpha course, so he that very same year of him being rescued, and he gave his life, and so he became a Christian as well, which was awesome. And everything was wonderful. We enjoyed church. We took part in lots of the activities in church, really absorbed in the family. Was excellent. But somehow or other, about 2018, we realised that, the girls were at university now, grown up, and we got to the point where we weren't getting along again, and it'd been gradual deterioration over a few years, and we got gradually more unhappy and more unhappy. We weren't bringing the best out in each other. We we couldn't talk like we used to do. We weren't happy in each other's company. We were trying to avoid each other, and it got to such a point where we didn't know how we were going to carry on. We were looking to happy retirement together, but this just didn't seem like it was going to be a possibility with the way that we were feeling. We tried RTF, and that worked for a short while, but didn't last more than a few months. We were back to square one again. And then we decided that we were really on a point where we didn't know if we were going to carry on or not. And we got a prayer partner each, because we really knew that we wanted to be happy together. We didn't want anybody else. We wanted to be happy together, but we weren't. And we didn't know how this was going to be sorted out. So we got a prayer partner each, and that was when things just started to turn around. A godly person, wise and godly person that we trusted, and they were rooting for us. They wanted the best for us. We were praying together. We were praying and praying and praying, and things started to turn around. And about a year ago, what I can say to you is that God restored the feelings that I thought had gone and died for good, and Mark thought the same. Restored those feelings miraculously. It's like, how do you go from thinking it's going to end, thinking that you can't carry on like this, to restoration? And I'm just so thrilled. We've got a future again now. God's restored that, not only our marriage but our future as well. And we're looking forward to retirement together, adventures together. We know that this is not going to be the end to our challenges, that there will be more challenges, but we truly hope and believe that with God at the focus, at the centre of our marriage, that we can overcome these things. And so we go forward in hope. So I hope that this testimony has not been too long and drawn out, and that it's given some of you out there maybe that are being challenged in the same sort of way, hope for your future too. Bless you, and don't give up. God can do amazing things.